In the peaceful village of Akuma, deep in River State, Nigeria, lived a girl named Boma. Unlike most of the other girls in the village, Boma had never been interested in the things they cared about. While they spent time plaiting each other's hair, talking about their future husbands, and practicing their cooking skills, Boma was running through the fields, playing football with the boys, or climbing trees to pick ripe mangoes. Before we dive into this story, please consider subscribing to my channel, turning on notifications, and letting me know where you're watching from in the comments. She dressed like them too, preferring shorts and t-shirts over the flowing dresses most girls wore. People in the village often whispered about her. "That one behaves like a boy," the women would say as they pounded yam in their wooden mortars. "Who will marry a girl like that?" Boma didn't care. She had Tamuno, her best friend, and together, they did everything. He was the only one who didn't mind her rough ways. To him, she was just Boma, his teammate, his friend, his equal. But everything changed when the New Yam Festival approached. The festival was the most exciting time of the year. There was music, dancing, masquerade performances, and most importantly, the village dance, where boys would ask girls to be their partners. Every girl in Akuma looked forward to it. It was a chance to dress beautifully, to be admired, and for some, to find love. One evening, after playing football at the village square, Boma wiped sweat off her forehead and turned to Tamuno. "Tamuno, will you go to the dance with me?" she asked. Tamuno looked at her in shock. Before he could respond, Ibiso, the most admired girl in Akuma, burst into laughter. She was standing nearby with her friends, Ebier and Prey. "Did I just hear right? Boma, you want to go to the dance? And you're even asking a boy?" Ibiso mocked. Ebier giggled. "Tamuno is going with Ibiso. And besides, dances are for real girls, not tomboys like you." Prey added, "Look at her. She even has a boy's name." The girls laughed, and Boma felt her face burn with embarrassment. She looked at Tamuno, hoping he would say something, but he remained silent. The laughter of the girls rang in her ears as she turned and ran home, tears filling her eyes. That night, Boma lay on her mat, staring at the ceiling. The words of the girls echoed in her mind. Maybe they were right. Maybe if she changed, she would finally be accepted. Maybe Tamuno would see her differently. The next day, she went to Madame Ibi, the village seamstress, and asked for a dress. Not just any dress, a long, flowing gown like the ones Ibiso wore. She let her mother plait her hair into neat cornrows and even borrowed some powder from her cousin to brighten her face. When she walked into the village square that evening, the transformation was shocking. "Who is that?" people whispered. "It's Boma." Even Tamuno stared at her, speechless. But before he could say anything, Kallio, one of the richest boys in the village, stepped forward. "You look beautiful," Kallio said, taking her hand. "May I walk with you?" Boma smiled. This was the first time a boy had ever spoken to her like this. She had finally done it. She was no longer a tomboy. She was a lady now. Ibiso watched everything with anger. She had always been the most admired girl in Akuma. Seeing Boma steal the attention made her furious. "She's only pretending," she whispered to Ebier and Prey. "She's still the same football-playing, tree-climbing girl inside. Just watch." That night, Ibiso and her friends found old pictures of Boma playing football and climbing trees. They posted them on the village notice board for everyone to see. By morning, the whole village was talking. "So she was faking all along," someone said. "This is who she really is. A boy in a girl's body," another shouted. Boma's heart sank. All her effort, all her pretending, it had all been for nothing. She ran back to her house, locking herself inside once again. That evening, she heard a knock at the door. She wiped her tears and opened it. Tamuno stood outside. "Boma," he said softly, "why did you change yourself?" She looked away, ashamed. "Because no one ever accepted me the way I was," she whispered. Tamuno took her hand. "But I liked you just the way you were. I've had a crush on you since we were kids, but I was too scared to say it. I didn't want to ruin our friendship." Boma's eyes widened in surprise. "But you and Ibiso, I was never really interested in her," Tamuno admitted. "I just thought I had to be with someone like her to fit in. But the truth is, I always liked you. The real you." Boma smiled for the first time in days. "So, what now?" she asked. "Well, the dance is still going on," Tamuno said, grinning. but I was thinking maybe we could go play football instead? Boma laughed, feeling lighter than she had in weeks.
Let's go, she said.
The next day, there was an important football match between Akuma and the neighboring village. Kalio, who had laughed at her the day before, was playing for Akuma. He wanted to impress a scout from Rivers United Football Club who had come to watch the match. Ibiso, still angry, whispered to him, "Don't let that tomboy steal the spotlight from you." During the match, Kalio was struggling to score. In the final minutes, the team needed one more goal to win. Tamuno turned to Boma. "Do you have a plan?" Boma nodded. Kalio's opponent always jumps right, fake right, then shoot left. The players listened. The ball was passed. Kalio followed Boma's advice and scored the winning goal. The crowd erupted in cheers. After the game, the scout walked onto the field. "That was an incredible strategy," he said. "Who came up with it?" Kalio opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Tamuno pointed at Boma. "She did." The scout looked impressed. "Boma, have you ever thought about coaching?" Boma's heart pounded. No one had ever praised her for being herself. "No, sir." "Well, you should. We need minds like yours in football." Ibiso and her friends stood in shock. Kalio frowned, but he knew the truth. Boma was special. That evening, as Boma and Tamuno walked home, he turned to her. "See? You didn't need to change for anyone." She smiled. For the first time in her life, she knew she was enough. And this time, she wasn't going to let anyone make her forget it.